These fun realities approximately from everything from the universe to the inward workings of your body will blow your mind. Number 1. There's a country where twins are most likely to be born. Benin, a country in Central Africa, is notable for having the highest birth rate of twins in the world. While the world average is just 13 twins per 1,000 births, Benin more than doubles that rate, at nearly 30 twins per 1,000 births. There's no single factor that causes this, but genetics, diet, and even the mother's height are thought to play a role. Number 2. The Comic Sans font came from an actual comic book. Most adults nowadays who know anything about graphic design steer away from using the Comic Sans font in formal documents. The font was designed by Vincent Conner, who drew direct inspiration from his favorite comic books, including Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' celebrated Watchmen series. Number 3. For 100 years, maps have shown an island that doesn't exist. Almost nothing is known about Sandy Island, a landmass about the size of Manhattan in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Australia. Supposedly, explorer James Cook discovered it in 1774, and it began appearing on nautical maps in 1908. It wasn't until 2012, when a team of Australian scientists set out to survey the island, that they discovered there was no island there at all. The scientists guessed that Cook may have in fact spotted a pumice raft of floating volcanic stone and gas. The Sydney Morning Herald even published an obituary for Sandy Island. Number 4. Babies are physical anomalies. Babies, particularly newborns, are surprisingly different from the children they'll grow up to be. When they're born, their heads account for a quarter of their full body weight, and the size of their brains will double in the first year of life. Babies have 300 bones and around 10,000 taste buds all over their mouth. Some of the bones will fuse as they age, into 206, as an adult, but the taste buds not on the tongue will eventually vanish. Number 5. The Queen has some hidden hideaways. Since the early 13th century, the City of London has officially paid rent to the Crown for 2 small pieces of property. Fortunately for the city, the price has stayed the same for more than 800 years. 1 knife, 1 axe, 6 horseshoes, and 61 nails, presented every autumn in the ceremony of quit rents. Although one of these properties is located in the moors in Shropshire and the other is near the Royal Courts of Justice in the city itself, no one knows the exact location of the Queen's land. Number 6. The man who wrote Dracula never visited Transylvania. Bram Stoker was an Irish author who is now best remembered for his Gothic horror novel Dracula. Partially set in Transylvania, a mountainous region in central Romania, the story cemented the legend of the vampire in mainstream European and American culture. Despite Stoker's many world travels, he never visited Eastern Europe and, by virtue, Transylvania at all. Number 7. The Australian government banned the word mate for a day. There are probably slang or informal words that get on your nerves from time to time, particularly when you think something should be taken seriously. In 2005, Australian Parliament took a few citizen complaints a little too seriously and banned anyone on their staff from using the word mate while at work. Fortunately, Prime Minister John Howard objected, claiming that mate was an important part of Australian culture, and the ban was overturned within 24 hours. Number 8. Many languages have the same roots. English, Portuguese, Latvian, Pashto, and Greek all sound very different today, but these languages all have a common ancestor called Proto-Indo-European. Though we don't have any written examples of it, linguists have worked backwards from a variety of modern languages to try to reconstruct it. Number 9. A tick bite can make you allergic to red meat. Plenty of people have food allergies, but few are the result of an insect bite. In a strange and growing trend, some people who get bitten by the Lone Star tick can develop a sudden allergy to red meat. Beef, lamb, and pork, which are technically classified as red meat, can make people with this allergy experience headaches, sneezing, a runny nose, and nausea. In severe cases, it can cause the person to be unable to breathe. For some sufferers, the allergy fades over time, but for others, it's permanent. Number 10. Harriet Tubman was even more heroic than you thought. You probably know that Harriet Tubman was a former slave who became a political activist for the abolition movement. But in addition to smuggling escaped slaves through the Underground Railroad, during the Civil War she was the first woman to lead an armed assault. She planned and executed a number of raids and was known to carry a revolver for personal protection. Number 11. Tornadoes can cause fish rain. Tornadoes can develop over water just as well as they can over land. When they do, they're called waterspouts, and they suck up large amounts of lake or seawater as well as whatever's swimming in that water. If the waterspout travels onto the land and the winds decrease, there's nowhere for those fish to go but down. As far as we know, there's no tornado powerful enough to pick up sharks, but a fishnado is entirely possible. Number 12. Napoleon was once attacked by thousands of rabbits. Napoleon Bonaparte was once one of the most powerful men in Europe, but he suffered an ignominious defeat at the hands, or paws, of rabbits. After a military victory, Napoleon's chief of staff organized a rabbit hunt to celebrate. Thousands of rabbits were brought in to be set loose, but instead of hopping away when the cages were opened, they turned to attack, swarming the partygoers. After trying and failing to shoo them away, the great Emperor Napoleon ran for the safety of his carriage. Number 13. Star Trek's Scotty stormed the beach at Normandy. Canadian actor James Doohan, best known for playing Montgomery Scotty Scott on the original Star Trek series, served in World War II with the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division. As a commissioned lieutenant, he led his troop up a mine-strewn Juno Beach as part of the Allied forces' D-Day invasion. Later in the day, he was wounded by friendly fire that caused the amputation of the middle finger on his right hand. You might not have noticed it because, during his time on Star Trek, directors did the best they could to avoid showing the injury on screen. Number 14. Apple pie isn't actually American. Apples originally come from Asia. The first pies were baked in medieval Europe. Even the concept of putting apples in pie traces back to a recipe from England in 1381. Nevertheless, the phrase "as American as apple pie" turned up by 1924 and became a common saying during the years of the Second World War. Number 15. Pigs are constitutionally protected in Florida. First written in 1838, the Constitution of the state of Florida guarantees the right to privacy, the freedom of speech, and the right of pregnant pigs to be free from cages. Unlike many crazy or outdated laws, this amendment is recent, passed in 2002, and comes from a well-meaning place: the prevention of cruelty to animals. During pregnancy, a pig must not be caged or even tethered such that it can't turn around freely. Number 16. Mr. Cherry breaks all the records you've never heard of. Japan's record breaker for most records broken is Cherry Yoshitake, a children's entertainer who goes by Mr. Cherry. In 2018 alone, Mr. Cherry set 1-minute records for the most pairs of underwear pulled on, 36, the most baked beans eaten, 71, and the most apples bobbed, 37. Number 17. Sweat doesn't actually stink. You might notice that any sweat you produce right after a shower doesn't smell so bad. That's because your sweat itself isn't stinky. It's the bacteria on your skin that breaks the sweat down that causes the odor. Additionally, you'll find that the sweat on your arms and legs doesn't smell as much as your armpits. That's because sweat glands in your armpits secrete more protein into a dark, damp environment, the perfect place in food for bacteria. Number 18. Some planets produce diamond rain. Saturn and Jupiter are gas giant planets that produce a truly unique form of weather. Recently, scientists discovered that there is plenty of carbon in these atmospheres. When carbon soot gets hit by lightning, it hardens into graphite and falls downward, where the pressure of the atmosphere hardens it further, until it becomes a diamond. Storms on these planets may literally rain diamonds as big as a centimeter across. Number 19. Sharks can live for 5 centuries. Greenland sharks are known to be some of the oldest living animals in our world. Researchers did carbon dating on a Greenland shark that was caught in 2014 and found it to be around 392 years old. Further testing revealed that our fishy friends could be up to 500 years old. Yes, that would mean that our geriatric friends would have been alive when Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa. Number 20. There's an entire town under a rock. If you've ever been accused of living under a rock, you'll feel right at home in Setenil de las Bodegas in Spain. Many of this tiny town's 3,000 residents live and work and play in a gorge beneath a huge rocky outcropping, where homes are built right into the rock. It provides so much shelter that historians think this area has been occupied by human settlements since the Stone Age. Number 21. It is illegal to sell a bounceless pickle to somebody in Connecticut. This law put Connecticut librarians in quite the pickle. The law actually arose as a legend and the people demanded the truth. For hours, librarians in the state scanned past archives of laws within the state until one librarian eventually found the truth in the Hartford Courant. The law was in fact an ordinance that was created in 1945 to thwart pickle packers Moses Dexler and Sidney Sparer. These two men were selling inedible pickles, so laboratories conducted experiments and found that if it doesn't bounce, don't eat an ounce. Number 22. The Bermuda Triangle isn't any more likely to cause a mysterious disappearance than anywhere else. This area in the North Atlantic Sea is also called the Devil's Triangle, because it is an area of the ocean that stretches between the tip of Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. It has been thought to seemingly swallow up ships and aircrafts. Explorers as far back as Christopher Columbus have reported odd occurrences, like fireballs in the sky, that turned out to be a meteor crashing. But historians, scientists, and the U.S. Coast Guard have proven that vessels are no more likely to disappear in the Bermuda Triangle than they are anywhere else in the ocean. Many prior disappearances have been demystified as remains of numerous wrecks were discovered or explained by weather patterns in the area at that time. Number 23. There's a world record and a happy ending for the greatest distance thrown in a car accident. This is one world record you may not want to try and top. A car traveling 70 miles per hour struck Matthew McKnight, an off-duty paramedic, when he stopped to help out with an accident on the side of an interstate in 2001. He was thrown 118 feet, almost half a football field. Eric Brader, his emergency room physician, told McKnight he should send it into the Guinness Book of World Records, but McKnight brushed it off as a joke. Brader was so impressed by the feat that he sent in the paperwork anyways, which was approved in 2003, but didn't make the cut until its 2008 edition. Number 24. You can sneeze faster than a cheetah can run. Clocking in at 100 miles per hour, we can sneeze faster than cheetahs run, 4.5 times faster than Usain Bolt's record, and 20 times faster than Michael Phelps. Unfortunately, we also expel about 100,000 germs when we sneeze. Number 25. The fire hydrant patent was lost in a fire. The fire hydrant patent is credited to Frederick Graff Sr., who was the chief engineer for Philadelphia Waterworks during the early 1800s. Unfortunately for Graff Sr., the patent was destroyed when the patent office in Washington, D.C., burned down in 1836. After 100 years, retired firefighter George Sigalakis reinvented the hydrant after they had been failing to work in too many critical emergencies. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.